Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. Let's start with some macro thoughts because there was plenty to think about yesterday. Dow futures were up over 900 points from the morning's lows. That's a chart from the stalwart. We saw a tremendous recovery after a very steep sell-off in the pre-market opening hours. And I kind of think that the equity market is actually caught in the crosshairs of the trade war. Larry Kudlow, don't overreact. We'll see how this works out. At the end of this whole process, the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold, he said. And then China Hand tweeted, then we will kill the leprechaun, grab the gold, and America wins. Global stocks wobbled with no way to know where trade war going. And, this was early in the day before the recovery set in. China tariffs US soybeans. 8 of 9 top exporting soybean states voted for Trump. Farmers have long memories. Just ask Jimmy Carter, that's Peter Brandt. China said it would levy an additional 25% tariff on imports of 106 US products, including soybeans, automobiles, chemicals, and aircraft. China's response was tougher than what the market was expecting. Investors didn't foresee the country levying additional tariffs on sensitive and important products such as soybeans and airplanes. Investors believe a trade war will hurt both countries and their economies eventually. Even if this conflict can be eased, it won't last long. As she added, there will be rounds after rounds of trade wars in the future. China is the top export destination for US soybeans. Half of the exports go there. This was an early morning dive in the soybean price as China announced $50 billion of trade tariffs. And Nick Mutati tweeted, sounds a lot like an iron snake from the east. That took me back to Ai Weiwei's installation of the snake that I saw in North America. I think President Trump is not as well equipped in his tariff war as the Chinese are. They're punching with surgical precision at the moment. Amazon patent reveals voice sniffer algorithm that could be used to analyze conversations. Something to think about. A voice sniffer algorithm is what the patent calls the technology. The more words they collect, the more the company gets to know you. Daniel Burrus. They are building a personality profile on the user. The algorithm uses positive trigger words like prefer and bored, or negative trigger words such as hate or disliked, and then the device can capture adjacent audio that can be analyzed for keywords, gauging interest levels in various products. It's a world gone mad. Home thoughts. I want a blaze of light to flame in me forever in a timeless dear love of everything. Jack Kerouac. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. Martin Luther King. Then make sure you play Take My Hand, Precious Lord. Play it real pretty. Are said to be the last words of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. just before he stepped out onto a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee, where a gunman shot him a single time. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear, he said. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. There is nothing more tragic than to find an individual bogged down in the length of life devoid of breath. This is another photograph of him taken from Nobel Prize website and leave you with a couple more quotes. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, convenience, but where he stands at a time of challenge and controversy. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Finally, nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. In this photograph you see dhows off Zanzibar. According to Go to Africa, they've relied on the sultry trade winds and warm currents for centuries, and nothing has changed. That takes me back to Professor Felipe Fernandez Armesto, who said the precocity of the Indian Ocean as a zone of long-range navigation, and it was those dhows that navigated the long range. And cultural exchange is one of the glaring facts of history, made possible by the reversible escalator of the monsoon. I like this photograph of Cape Buffalo roaming across the brilliant green, rain-washed plains of the Sluice Game Reserve. At nearly 20,000 square miles, the reserve is bigger than Switzerland. The BBC is talking of a new craze for turmeric, and I had my grandmother's sister, who was really deeply immersed in Indian medicinal history. She knew it all. So much was lost, actually, when she passed away. But what I discovered whenever I was ill was turmeric had something to play with the dose of whatever I was going to receive. It made me remember her. A spread of Moroccan cookies from a Mimouna celebration last year in New York. This is a credit due to Francesco Sapienza for the New York Times. Political reflections, Tanzania. Adil Naji asks, are we becoming a police state? I thought we are a democracy. There's been a lot of debate around that, Tanzania in particular. International markets, for the first time ever, consumer confidence is stronger among those over 55 than among those under 35. That's Deutsche Bank research by Lisa Abramovich. Facebook offers a case study in how not to conduct crisis communications. The poor judgment Facebook exercised in handling this matter is mind-boggling. As anyone with even a small amount of experience managing crisis could have told the company, the worst decision an organization can make in such a situation is to stay silent. If Facebook had disclosed what it knew as soon as the problem occurred, and then followed up with steps to protect user privacy, it could have resolved the issue without outside interference and the financial and reputational losses it's now experiencing. Instead, the incident has spiraled out of Facebook's control. There's a simple reason why disclosure is the most effective strategy in a crisis. The truth always emerges. In the US, even classified government documents are regularly leaked, so a company facing a problem has 2 choices: to admit what happened immediately and ideally get some points for being transparent, or to try to cover things up and later be blamed for both the initial problem and the subsequent deceit. That's why any good crisis expert will tell an organization to fess up about everything as soon as is possible. It will face an initial round of negative media coverage, but if the company has truly come clean and then works to fix the underlying problem, the media will be left with nothing more to report. It's the fastest and easiest way to make a problem go away. Reasonable people wouldn't expect a company that has just learned that its data has been improperly shared to develop a full plan within minutes to prevent such a situation from recurring. They would, however, expect the company to be transparent, express remorse, pledge to take action to prevent the problem from happening again, and follow up with an announcement about what it was doing to solve the underlying issue. If Facebook had done this, it wouldn't be dealing with the mess it's in today. And that's what I think. And I wrote a piece, Sell Facebook, on the 26th of March. And I said, interestingly, out of the 43 analysts who recommended buying Facebook shares, not one has downgraded the stock over the crisis. I believe the share price is headed to at least $150 a share, and that the man in the hoodie, a hoodie is a sweatshirt with a hood, Mark Zuckerberg, is hopelessly behind the curve. And I said his decapitation within 12 months looks a shoo-in. Facebook market value drops to $450 billion after the company says most people on its vast social network may have had their public profiles scraped by third parties. Mark Zuckerberg is saying he's still the right person to run Facebook. I think he patently is not. Cities contributing most to global GDP by 2030. Interesting reading from Makesh Bruno. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 122.61, dollar index 19.25, Japanese yen 107.06, Swiss franc 0.9620, the pound 140.63, 140.51 now. The Australian dollar 0.7694. India rupee 65.045, South Korean won 10.5927, the Rial 332.93, Egyptian pound 17.6897, South African rand 11.9164. Plenty of price action yesterday, didn't we? This is a 3-month chart of the dollar index. I'm still sticking with my 88 stop. Euro versus the dollar, I think it's actually headed lower towards 120, and I think the stock needs to be at 125.60. The price fall of 22.4% in March compared to a 2.69% fall in the S&P 500 was the worst April Fool's joke. Responds Rixadev to that debate when I was saying I thought Elon Musk needs some help because it was in very poor taste. He was tweeting on April Fool's Day that Tesla's bankrupt. Most people he tweeted don't know, this is another tweet I discovered overnight, don't know there's a whole box of Easter eggs with every Tesla. Just tap logo on center screen and wait. Easy access to most of discovered ones, more coming. Another example of something I think we should steer well away from. Ouch, Barclays rating cut by Moody's to lowest investment grade. Markets more sanguine on Barclays. See Credit Suisse, UniCredit and Deutsche Bank is a bigger credit risk. That's a chart from Holger. Commodity markets, as we discussed, soybean prices dropped as much as 5.3% in Chicago, the most since July 2016. Chinese tariffs are a huge blow to American growers, especially those in Midwestern states that Trump needs to win re-election in 2020. China is the biggest buyer of US soybeans, picking up about a third of the entire US crop. The trade is worth $14 billion. Soybean prices dropped as much as 5.3% in Chicago, the most since July 2016. Gold, last trading at $13.26, coming off the top. Crude oil, which was sunk and then rebounded, last at $63.50. Sub-Saharan Africa, the town of San Vito del Normani in southern Italy, confirmed in an email to Reuters that Moishi Katumbi held Italian citizenship for more than 60 years. Under Congo's constitution, its nationals cannot hold dual citizenship and have to petition the government to regain their citizenship if they take up a foreign nationality. 6th of June 2016, I wrote about how the birthday boy, President Joseph Kabila, is constitutionally barred from running for the third term, and how Moishi Katumbi had set out his stall and was appearing like a formidable adversary. Same date, June 2016, in fact, the numbers were building and Katumbi must have been thinking this might just turn into a tsunami. Again, from that same article, June 2016, I wrote, President Kabila, however, outwitted Katumbi by removing him from the street and the Congo entirely, and that this might well prove a cleverly administered technical knockout. The withdrawal of AGOA benefits is at the discretion of the United States, Rwanda said, a very dignified response to Trump's decision to suspend it from AGOA after its move to shut out second-hand mitumba American clothes. Rwanda also closed thousands of churches in a bid for more control. Rwanda's government has closed thousands of churches and dozens of mosques as it seeks to assert more control over a vibrant religious community whose sometimes makeshift operations, authorities say, have threatened the lives of followers. President Kagame said he was shocked by the high number of churches in the small East African country. 700 churches in Kigali, he said, of houses of worship in the nation's capital in March. Are these boreholes deep wells that give people water? I don't think we have as many boreholes. Do we even have as many factories, he asked. This has been a mess. Policy changes introduced by the new administration in Zimbabwe seem to have brought about much excitement, Standard Bank in a research note I received. The government is clearly intent on resolving its foundational problems. In an effort to attract capital, the government has dispensed with indigenization requirements except for diamond and platinum mining. Similarly, race is not a determinant in the award of 99-year land leases, something that may potentially attract farmers who were excluded and subsequently emigrated. There is hope, once the elections are held later this year, that the government will be in a position to engage the international community so that it can once again gain access to financing. World Bank has found that South Africa is the most unequal country in the world. The report found the top 1% of South Africans own 17.9% of the country's wealth, while the bottom 60% only controls 7% of the country's assets. South African all shares down 8.24% year to date. Dollar versus Rand, last trading just around the 11.90 level. Egyptian pound 17.6795. Investors over a 12-month period have made a ton of cash in Egypt. Nigerian all shares up 6.55% year to date. Again, going back to that Standard Bank research report, they're saying the Bank of Ghana is about to lower policy rates significantly. Sharp drop in inflation not only confirmed the Bank of Ghana's long-held view that inflation would fall within the target range in half one, but has also raised concerns that inflation would drop below the 6% year-on-year lower bound of the range. Ghana Stock Exchange is the best performing stock index in the world. It's up to 13.69%. 2nd of April, I wrote an article talking about one of the challenges Africa faces on the world stage is consolidating 55 voices into one. 3rd of April, I wrote about Q1 African markets performance in global context. I've now learned some of the biggest equity deals this year have been in Africa. Steinhoff raised $596 million by divesting a stake in South African financial services firm PSG Group. Sanlam raised 5.7 billion rand selling new shares. More deals look set to come from Africa. I was also asking, is free trade a silver bullet for African prosperity? That was published by TRT. A massive crack that is up to 50 feet suddenly opened up in the ground in Africa. The crack stretches along Kenya's Great Rift Valley, a short CBS report on that. Uganda GDP growth rate year on year at 6.6% accelerating. Raila is set to become the AU special envoy in a handshake deal as part of his truce with President Kenyatta, effectively elevating him to a continental statesman. Uhuru is personally leading the lobbying at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa. and Commission Chairperson Musa Faki is said to have agreed to appoint Raila to the position. Aidan Duale lauded Raila's eminent appointment, saying the NASA chief had earned his place as a distinguished Democrat. I am not aware of that offer, but if it is there, Raila Odinga is a statesman par excellence. Raila is one man who, if he gets that offer, will enable AU to handle dangerous zones, he told the Star on the phone from Garissa. Have a look at my article written on the 12th of March called The Rapprochement. Nairobi all-share is at a fresh record high, and it's going to close at another one today. It's up 13.26% year to date. Safaricom rallied 2.4% to close at 32, which is a fresh all-time high. That's up 19.626% year to date. Nation Media, which is down 4.301% year to date. And I tweeted a story yesterday about how the Aga Khan was getting ready to send a group from Eglamont to look at what's happening in the nation. And then I got a response from Mr. Makoko saying it's fake news. And I responded by saying that I thought if they weren't looking at it, then they really were asleep on the jaw. Nation Media is up 16.84% over 12 months. Same period, the Nairobi All Shares up 47.8%. Over 36 months, Nation Media is down 53.17%. The All Share was up 10.8% over the same period. And over 60 months, Nation Media is minus 66.36%, and the All Share is up 60.91%. CMA announced some enforcement action against National Bank. That link is there on the podcast. And they also said we also inquired into approximately 1 billion shillings, which was alleged to have been siphoned off out of National Bank through an embezzlement scheme. The main allegations were in respect of misrepresentation of financial statements for the periods ended 30th June 2015 and 30th September 2015, where profits were overstated. National Bank is down 3.2% year to date and reported its full year earnings not too long ago. Click on the link if you're interested in that. NSE 20 is up 2.93% year to date. The NSE has announced that Sasini, CIC Insurance and Stanbic have been dropped from the NSE 20 index, replaced by Kenya Re, NIC and the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Finally, if you're interested in diving into any listed share, click on the last link on Rich Wrap-Ups. That should sort you out. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by.